Hey, what's going on YouTube? So last night we did the square tubing coating. Run over. It is coated all the way through. Yeah, I missed a couple spots up in the top, but all the sides, the bottoms are done on both the tubes. So that got done. Just wanted to give you guys that update. And then today's project, I'm working on the bed. We're going from lightly sanded wood to burned wood all the way over to the beautiful stain, so it looks like that when it is done. Alright, so for burning, all we're doing is using a little propane torch, little step ladder, so that way you're not standing on the wood because you don't want to put any footprints on your nice clean sanded wood. I sanded it down. I don't necessarily know if it was a 220 or not anymore, because the sanding disc that I use on my right angle grinder was originally 40 grit, but I've used it so much grinding metal and other parts like that that it's so dull. So it's probably in the 80 to 160 range because it's so dull. But I'm just going to show you guys how to do this. Then we're going to stain it, and it's going to come out looking just like the other side. But the things that you're going to need are a rag, some disposable gloves, napkin or paper towel for my screwdriver that I'm using to mix the stain, because it will separate. My cap is already off my stain, and a little propane torch that I bought from Harbor Freight, and then just a little Burnamatic camping gas tank. So all we're going to do is turn the torch head on, light the fire, and we're going to burn some wood. Now you don't want to burn the wood too long, because if you hold the torch in one spot too long, you'll make it really dark, and you may want it really dark, but you also have that chance of burning the wood. If you burn the wood too much, it's not going to come out right. I like it so you can see all the wood grain, make it nice and dark in some spots. It'll lighten up all the light wood. That's going to burn the quickest. All the darker wood is going to burn really slow. Just go like that. Just go nice and slow. Burn it till it's nice and crispy. Now, you don't have to burn the wood beds on the truck. I like doing them. I think they come out looking a lot nicer than just staining it. Some people prefer just to stain it, where what I'm burning right now would soak in the most stain and it'd still show your wood grain, but you don't get the wood grain like you want it. And a lot of people use staining sponges. I don't use staining sponges. I just use a piece of old rag, or just a washcloth or something like that in general. It soaks it up a little bit better. It gives you better displacement. The staining sponges, they work really good, but my issue with them is if you dip it and you get it too wet, the biggest problem that you're going to have with it is you're going to have overflow on there, and that stain will sink in and look different than what you want it to be, because it'll be dark in some spots and it won't be put down as evenly as if you were just to use a rag. So we're just going to burn this. like I said before, Harbor Freight does sell this. It's about 30 bucks. It comes with different tips. I just use the normal one that they put on there. And I like it because it's really good for this. It gives you pretty good even displacement. And after you get some of the lines done and the wood grain showing, some of it will not necessarily pop all the way up and through, so you can hit it a little bit more with the torch, so that way you can get that grain to pop out a little bit more. I like doing it with a torch, personally. It dries out the wood a little bit before you stain it. Some people prefer not to, and then wonder why the stain doesn't sink in as well as it would after you burn it. After you're done burning it, that wood gets so soaked in there and dried out from the torch that the stain literally just sets right on in there. Burn my end caps a little bit more. And that's what it looks like completely burned. Next, we stain it. Now, I'm just using Pittsburgh Paramount from my local Menards store. For you Southerners, I know you don't know what Menards is, but for us Northerners, we all know what it is. You can get something, any kind of stain. A lot of people use mineral wax, things like that. They're all very good brands. I use this. I prefer this. Make sure you always stir it. And it's not separating, because if it is separating, it's not going to go on there correctly how you want it to go. So you got to make sure you really get that stirred up in there. I guess I could use this rag because this one's clean. Take off this screwdriver. Just gotta set that over to the other side now. Now we're gonna grab our 1 gallon pail. Put it in the truck bed. Now you want to fully submerge your cloth. Get it nice, wet like that. Give it a little squeeze. Shake it. And yeah, you're still gonna have some over drip. We'll grab it. Rub it on the wood. And this is why I like these rags better than I like the staining cloths and other things like that. You see how I have these lines right here? You can see where all the stain is. I can wipe my finger through it. You grab your rag, you go to the dryer part, you let it soak in there a little bit, and you just wipe back over. And now you don't have all those marks and everything like that. You just keep going. It'll start to run out. You'll see it start to run out. It'll start to dry up and lighten too much. So, go ahead, dip yourself again. Same thing. Process, squeeze. Let your drip marks go wherever you want them to go. Try not to get them on the other board. Just keep on going. Keep working your way down the boards. And then all of these drip marks that are all over, it's fine, but you kind of want to wipe them up soonish, because if you don't, they'll start to look like that. And if it starts looking like this, where you can see the drip marks, those spots are going to go dark, but since I'm doing 3 to 4 coats on here, it does not matter. Now, if I was only doing 1 or 2 coats, it'd be super light. And then all these drip marks that I'm making everywhere, will soak into the wood and they will stay there, and you will see them when you are done with your project. So we're just going to keep on going, work our way down to the end. And you don't want to put a real heavy coat on when you're doing the first coat. But you do want it to soak up in your screw mounts and everything like that, so that kind of blends in with the wood. As we just keep on working our way down. Same thing, squeeze it, let it drip, that's fine. Just go ahead and just keep on going. Now, a lot of the online forums will probably disagree with me and say, no, there's better ways of doing it, don't use a rag, things like that. I've always used a rag and come out with quite well results. Now, if you let your rag sit there and drip and drip and drip, yeah, it's not going to come out pretty. But that's okay. It's your first time doing it. It's kind of one of those whatever things. Let it be so. And if you got some of those drip marks on one of the other boards, oh, I still have all the drip marks on that one. I'm going to try to dry out the rag as much as I possibly can. I put that on the light. And then go back over it, give it one nice sweep all the way through. And then just come back to the board that I was working on. Rub it in there. Get it nice and good. Get some of that off my glove. Just keep rubbing it on in there. Now, it's going to take some time. By the time I get to this last board, I can start putting another coat onto that one. Don't want it to drip all over my truck. We're going to squeeze that pretty good. Wipe a little of the gloves off. Come back over here. Wipe my glove on this one. And we're just going to go ahead and just keep on staining it. Just like that. Flip our rag over, continue going down the line. And we do one nice clean pass all the way through, back and forth. Get any of those excess drip marks off, because now they'll start to show if you leave them. So we let it just keep, the wood all is going to absorb it all in, that's fine. So that's just going to be your first coat. That's what it's going to come out looking like. You don't want to do a super heavy first coat, like I said. You want to just do a nice light coat, let it just soak it in, because this wood, it is really dry, and it'll try to just keep soaking in. I can literally dump this whole paint can on here, and it'll probably absorb about 3/4 of it, because the wood is so dried out. It's been sitting in the sun, it's been baking all day. We don't want to just sit there and let it bake like that for hours and hours on it. It's better, because the wood is dry, so this dries quicker. But if you just let it sit and keep baking, it's better for it. The wood will dry out more. You'll just want to soak that stain in. You won't have as many issues with things, such as you won't have to worry about it, but you have to make sure that your wood is dry. If you're trying to stain this stuff and this is wet, forget about it. It'll never come out the way you want it. The water will bleed through. It'll just look horrible. So this is first coat, what it looks like. That's second coat. See how it's a little bit darker on the second coat compared to the first coat? That's what we want. But we just want to do nice even layers, because if you start doing mushy layers, and you start putting way too much down, if I just went like this and then left that and then just went and did my other coats, it's not going to come out evenly. It's going to look really bad. It's going to be spotty. So you just want to keep going over it, letting that wood absorb it. Give it a little bit of time in between. Sometimes if you're in a little bit more of a humid condition, you don't want that, because the more you're sitting there trying to force the stain in, the more humid it is, the more it's going to reject the stain. So you're just going to be having these globs of stain all over the place. And you don't want that at all. You want it to come out looking nice, like a show truck. Now, all my friends who have older trucks and things like that, 80s models and 60s models, S10s, things like that, they came naturally with the wood bed. They have wood bed kits and things like that, and can't think of the name of the company that sells the kit, but they really like the way that it comes out with the way that it looks burned and everything like that. Because after it dries up, like I said, it just becomes beautiful. Now, I'm not gonna do the varnish today. This is supposed to be a 2-in-1 varnish stain mix, but I don't trust their varnish. So we're gonna do marine grade varnish when we are done. Just give that a nice final wipe. And if you do not sand the wood good, then you'll get lots of divot marks and things like that, which that's another thing you don't want, because if you look right here, it looks like I have a butcher block where I just kind of pressed in fingerprints and things like that. You want to try to avoid that as much as possible. But, so what we're doing is we're just going to keep going over it. I'm not too worried about the divot marks. This is a tow truck bed. It's going to take some abuse, things like that. But we're just going to keep on going over this. Keep on going. And now that you guys got the basic gist of it, good luck on your project. And I will be coming out with a video probably in the next couple days and show you how to make sure that the wood is dry enough. Yeah, it's going to take 24 to 48 hours for this to dry. Do not put on the varnish before you're done doing this. Or I'm sorry, not the varnish, the urethane. Do not put on your marine urethane before this dries. Because if you do, this is not going to mix with that urethane. And all it'll do is your urethane will sit on top. It will never settle into the wood correctly. So you have to let this dry. You got to give it, like I said, 24 to 48 hours after this dries. Then we're going to go into the varnish, which I got to wait for a couple warmer days, so we'll probably be doing that next week. In the meantime, I will throw more videos online for you guys of how to do the 6-inch oval lights on the back. We'll go through some wiring and other things like that. Cool? See you guys later.